Okay, so it's the 12th of September here in eastern Connecticut, and the way the season is going, the nectar flow as far as filling honey supers is essentially over. We've got nectar coming in. You can see there's a lot of activity in front of these bees here, but the brood chambers are getting low on stores. The bees are packing all the nectar down in here. I pulled my honey supers off yesterday. I decided that it was time to prepare the bees for winter. And so what we're going to do this afternoon is we're going to talk about feeding bees, assessing queens, feeders, mite treatments, and I'll show you basically how I prepare a hive for winter. I guess we'll get to it. All right, so there's three things that I think are imperative to do with a beehive right now in the fall. One of them is to treat for mites. Now I'll do an assessment, see what I got for mite loads and so on and so forth, but there's no way I'm going to send a hive into the winter without treating it for mites. Okay, and we'll talk about the mite treatments as we go. The second thing we need to do is we need to raise young bees, because we want young, healthy, well-nourished bees going into the winter, because those are the ones that are going to make it through the winter and come out in the spring and raise the next batch of brood in the springtime to build these hives up. And then the third thing we want to do is we want to make sure that they have adequate stores for the winter. Because if you don't do all three of these things, if you're not willing to commit to deal with the mites, raise new bees, and feed your bees, you might as well just scroll on by this video right now and go on, because you're going to have problems with bees. You're going to have a tough time keeping them alive. So let's get going. The first thing you need to do is, it surprises me how many people don't know how to light a smoker, so we're going to start. You get yourself pine needles and a lighter. It's very easy. Start from the bottom. Fire goes up. And you want to burn a handful of needles so you get a really good fire going in here. Start a little bed of coals. Don't overpack your smoker, don't underpack it. That's kind of a touchy-feely thing, okay? Okay, so here we are. This is a smoker. And the first thing I do is I just right across the entrance, and I actually knock down the guards on the ones next to them just to push them back a little bit, okay? So let's take the lid off here now. You can see the bees are pretty calm. There is a bit of a nectar flow going on today. We're going to see what it is right now. So you just give them a few puffs of smoke. You're not trying to burn the hairs off them. You're just trying to smoke them. Let them go down. You can see it pushed them right down. This hive does not have a feeder in it, so we're going to correct that problem today. So I want to look in here and see what's going on. Here is a frame that is absolutely full of pollen. And so one of the things that we talk about is using pollen substitute. But right now in the fall of the year, we have tremendous amount of pollen coming in here. There's a little bit of nectar on the outside that the bees are packing in the periphery. I see there's still drones in this hive. I would expect to see in the next frame or the one after, I would expect to see some brood coming up. Typically they do store the pollen close by where they're raising brood. So let's see what's going on in the next frame here. Okay, and that was difficult to find. There's the queen right there. And she is laying eggs on that frame, I said, right next to the pollen, and there she is. So this makes working the rest of the hive a lot easier now that I know where the queen is, because I like to see the queen. I also don't want to harm her. So this frame over here, same thing, lots of pollen, lots of bees. I'm not seeing a lot of stored nectar in this hive. So that's one of the things we're going to deal with. I just take this frame and I lean it against the hive right on the outside over here. We know the queen's over there. Now we don't have to worry about looking for her. Okay, I'm seeing brood. I'm seeing really good young brood right here. This side over here is older brood. It's very spotty, and that's probably a good indication that they were in a prolonged dearth through August. Okay, these bees here are getting ready to hatch out in a short period of time, but they're very spotty brood from time back. There again, just set these frames out of the way. Okay. We all want to see a good solid pattern of brood when we look at bees. So that's a pretty good one right there. A few holes in the middle, but this indicates that we've got a young vigorous queen still in the hive. I suspect, let me look at my notes on the front here. Yeah, I have not requeened this hive this year. This could very well be, she's not marked. Most of my queens are marked. This could very well have been this colony swarmed earlier in the season. But we've got a good queen in here. So I'm going to skip right to the next point. There's a lot of things that I see here I don't need to see anymore as a beekeeper. The hive is light. That means to me that this hive is very close to starving if we were not going to feed it, okay? So I'm going to get right on the feeding thing. At the same time, maybe I know where the queen is. Maybe I'll do a real quick alcohol wash. We'll get an idea of what's going on in this hive for mite loads. So I'm going to find a frame that's got younger brood on it. There again, one of the important things for you to do is make sure that you know where the queen is, because you don't want to shake that queen into the sample that you're going to kill for. Unfortunately, you got to kill them with alcohol. All right. So we got a little bit of honey here. I'm running out of frames of brood here. Typically, your mites will be on frames of brood or frames of pollen. They'll be on the bees that are tending to that brood, we'll say. And it's pretty easy. You want to get yourself half a cup of bees. You want to put them into this alcohol here. This is not the kind of alcohol you want to drink. There is an alternative method which uses dishwater soap. It's on Randy Oliver's website. We could probably put a link up to that at some point. I haven't used it yet, so we're just going to stay with the alcohol wash. Here's a frame of bees. I'm going to chunk them down. You got to do the magical incantation. You got to wave it and you got to say, "Old field bees, fly away." You want young nurse bees. Here's your half cup of bees. Put them into the alcohol. Shake it around a little bit. The James Bond method. Like I said, no matter what happens, these bees are going to get treated for mites. I like to know what the mite thresholds are. This particular hive here, I am going to use Apivar. Chemical is Amitraz. So a few things about miticides. This particular miticide is a chemical. Maybe I'll have a little look down inside here, see what the bottom box looks like at the same time. I would expect not much going on from this hive, from what I've seen right now. See some sparse brood. Very little in stores in this hive, okay? So this hive badly needs to be fed. I'm not even going to go any further. Let's talk about Apivar. It's a chemical miticide. It's a 6-week treatment. And you cannot have honey supers on. So that's very important to know that. We have them off of this hive. The other thing is you can feed bees when you have Apivar in the hive. So it's these 4 chemical impregnated strips. Okay, one of the things that's important when you're working bees this time of the year is you get in and out of the hive quickly. Well, we had a battery failure. So while Ralph was changing the battery, I put the 2 Apivar strips in the bottom box. And I'm going to put, Apivar. I'm going to put 2 more strips up here in the top box. And basically do the same thing in the lower box, just 2 inches for the edge. You put them down like this. They got a little tab that kind of hangs them in the hive. Put 2 diagonally across, or 1 diagonally across here, and you've got 1 here and 1 there in the lower box. I've filled the feeder, okay? I would expect that these bees would drain this feeder by tomorrow, okay? So I'll be prepared to feed them another feeder tomorrow. Bees need a tremendous amount of syrup. In a big hive like this, that's got not much in the way of stores, they could take a tremendous amount of syrup. So if I was a long way away, I might have considered even giving them 2 feeders full of syrup so that I could minimize the trips back. But anyway, this hive has got these strips. These strips stay in for 6 weeks. Okay, they're a long duration treatment. You can feed the hive while you're at it. And And then in 6 weeks, you go in and you remove them. You do not want to let the strips stay in over winter. Okay, I'll put the inner cover on, top cover on top, and that's pretty much it for treating this hive right now. We can get back to our little mite sample that we took, and it's been sitting here for half an hour. I've been shaking it occasionally, and we're going to find out what we've got for varroa mite in this sample here. So we like to see in a sample like this 4 or less during the summer, and we're going to see what we got in this sample right now. Pretty handy little gizmo here, costs nothing. It's got a little bit of nylon netting on it, holds a cup that's got the bottom cut off of it into there, and when you swirl it, the mites fall through the bees right into the alcohol. Okay, so I'm going to pour off some of this juice here because it's easier to see. And I'm looking down here and I'm counting the mites, and I see 4 mites. So what that means is that we are at the threshold for treating in the summertime. Quite frankly, I expected to see more mites than that. But there are 4 mites in the bottom of this thing, which means I've had good control of my mites over the course of the year. And I have not yet treated this season. So it is time to treat. And we've already done that. Now, if I have a chance, I can come back and take a second assessment of this in a month or so after I've had the treatment in there for a while and see what's going on for mites there. I will follow up late in November, around Thanksgiving. We get those days that are up in the 40s or maybe 50 degrees, and I will follow up with a oxalic acid dribble treatment. There'll be no brood in the hive, and that'll clean up the mites going into the winter. I've been doing this as my mite treatment for the last 4 years, and I think that the oxalic acid cleanup in November contributes dramatically to the fact that I've had counts like this. 12th of September, 4 mites. I have not treated at all this year, and that means there's so few going through the winter, coming up into the spring, that they just it takes forever for them to build up, and I like that. So, thing about oxalic acid is you have to use it when there's no brood in the hive, or it's not as anywhere near as effective. If there's brood in the hive, you use it when there's no brood, and it's very, very effective. So let's open up another hive, and we will show how to use the Formic Pro treatment. I know a lot of people like that. And we'll talk about the differences between how we treated this hive and how we treated that hive.